They finally did it! Some massive changes to Social Security that will impact tens of millions of beneficiaries. Let's get into it as we have a lot to cover in this video. But really quickly, thank you so much for watching. My objective in this video is to bring you as much helpful information as I possibly can. So if you haven't done so yet, or if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video, as I'm here to help you out in any way that I possibly can. Thank you again, subscribe down below, and let's get into this right away. Alright, so last week I brought you a video saying that Representative John Larson would be introducing a bill called Social Security 2100, a Sacred Trust. Well, it didn't actually happen last week, but rather it happened yesterday. Yes, this was actually really good stuff right here. In fact, Congressman John Larson brought this bill and introduced it to Congress, and calling on them to reform Social Security, which would literally impact tens of millions of beneficiaries. In fact, I listened to the entire introduction and the speech from John Larson. It was really good. So let me get into it and talk about this bill that he's introducing right here. We can go through the details and what this is going to look like going forward, as there's 17 different provisions within this bill to actually reform and strengthen Social Security. Pretty much what everybody wants to hear right now, right? Especially many of you in this community who receive Social Security benefits. This is good stuff. All right, let's run through some of the major provisions in this bill to reform and strengthen the Social Security program. All right, so one of the big takeaways out of this is that boost up to 125% of the federal poverty line. Now, of course, I wanted to start with that one because that is the one that most people are focused on, that most people want to know about, because they're thinking, hey, that's a pretty big boost to benefits, right? Well, yeah, it certainly is. Because here's the thing. Here's what they want to do. One of the major provisions in this bill is to raise the minimum benefit up to 125% of the federal poverty line. Now, let me give you some numbers behind that so you know what we're working with. Right here, as we stand, as I record this video in late-ish 2021, the federal poverty line as of right now is $12,880. Well, if we run the math on that, 12,880 multiplied by 1.25, which would be 125%, brings us up to $16,100. If we divide that out on a monthly basis, that would be $1,341 each and every month. So, could you imagine? That would be an amazing minimum benefit. Seriously, 125% of the federal poverty line. That one is huge right there, in there alone. So that is one of the major provisions in this Social Security 2100, a sacred trust. Now, one more quick thing I just want to mention, and I know I'll probably see a couple comments down below. I saw them previously, which is I do completely recognize that there is a separate bill out there called Social Security 2100 Act. Yes, I do recognize that. That one was introduced in 2019, and it had 200 co-sponsors. This one is a revision of the Social Security 2100 Act, and it is called Social Security 2100, a Sacred Trust. This is the revised version of that one, and actually this one's a little bit better. So that's why I wanted to mention that, because I do recognize there are two of these. Now remember, that first one, Social Security 2100 Act, that one had 200 co-sponsors. This one has just about as many. I didn't see an exact number, but according to the reports, they were saying it looks like this one has almost equally as much support, and it was just introduced yesterday. Amazing, right? So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff cooking out there right now on Social Security. All right, let's quickly run through a couple other key takeaways out of this bill that was introduced by John Larson. And then we can talk through some of the other good information that we know out there right now regarding this Social Security 2100, a sacred trust. So one of the other major key takeaways out of this is they want to reform the way that the COLA is actually calculated. Now, this would actually better reflect the actual expenses for Social Security beneficiaries on an annualized basis. Because as of right now, the current way that they're calculating the COLA doesn't really truly reflect the actual expenses of Social Security beneficiaries. So the new way that they want to calculate the COLA would better reflect the actual expenses for Social Security beneficiaries and would actually result in a higher COLA raise each and every year in general, right? We do know that the COLA does fluctuate each and every year. A couple other things. There's that minimum, well, let me take that back. Not a minimum, but there would be an on average about a 2% raise for all beneficiaries and upcoming new applicants to Social Security based on how they want to recalculate things as well. So there'd be about a 2% raise again, another 2%. Now I get it, 2% is not that much, but either way, we'll take anything at this point, right? Yeah, so pretty good stuff. So there's actually a lot going on with this bill. This is really cool. But one of the major things that they want to do in this as well is they want to actually extend out the solvency of the program because, as we know right now, in about 12 years from now, 12, 13 years from now, Social Security will be, by their definition, insolvent. In other words, the trust funds will be completely depleted, and at that point, they could only pay out about 78% of promised benefits. So therefore, let me give you a quick example on that to give you a better illustration of what this looks like. If you're currently receiving $1,000 as a monthly benefit, in like 12, 13 years from now, when the trust funds are depleted, that would mean that they would only be able to pay out 78%, as in $780, of your promised benefits because the trust funds would be depleted. Therefore, they could only pay out what they're bringing in as a result of Social Security taxes on a regular basis, right? So I hope that kind of makes sense. So it's not like Social Security would be ending, but rather the trust funds would be empty. Therefore, they can only push back to the beneficiaries that money that is coming in through payroll taxes paid in to Social Security. Does that make sense? So that's where they're getting that 78% benefit from. So one of the provisions in this bill is to actually extend out the solvency out until 2038. Only about 5 more years, but that may give Congress the time to actually reform these programs and have to actually give them the funds that they need to continue functioning through the rest of the century. So yeah, right? A lot of really good stuff right there. Now again, through the rest of the century. Would that impact us? Well, I guess it could, if, you know what I mean? But, what I'm saying is it would probably impact maybe like our kids, our grandkids, stuff like that, even me, you know what I mean? It's probably not going to impact me a century from now, you know what I mean? But either way, maybe, you never know. I'd be very old by that time, but you know what I mean? It would actually extend out the solvency of these programs for a very long time, some of the provisions in this package. So there's a lot of really good stuff in here for Social Security beneficiaries. Now here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there, people in Congress, they're all jacked up. They're all excited right now about this because it was just introduced yesterday. And there's a lot of people in Congress right now saying, hey, let's get this thing passed through the House. Let's get it over to the Senate right away. But there are other experts out there right now saying basically they're probably not going to work on this until they get these reconciliation bills and the infrastructure bill completely finished. Once those are done, passed, and forgotten about, then it's likely that they could start working on this. So there are some promising information out there right now saying that it's probably likely that they will start working on this possibly later this year or early next year after they get these 2 bills on the table completely finished, right? So that's actually really encouraging to see, simply because we've been talking about this for a while now, looking at this Social Security 2100 Act, the first introduction of this, and now we have the revised second version, and looking at this thinking, it's been around for a while now, when are they going to start looking at this? Well, it looks like it could be coming as soon as later this year sometime. They could be open up the books on this thing, provided they get these 2 packages that are currently on the table right now off their desk, passed, out of the way, forgotten about, done, wrapped up, and then they can start working on this Social Security 2100, a sacred trust. Amazing, right? So, yeah, we'll have to watch this one very closely, but it may not actually be too far out into the future where we could potentially see this bill passed and sent over to the president for a signature and maybe some massive changes coming to Social Security sooner than we actually think, right? So, I mean, it could be as early as maybe the first quarter of 2022. Now, again, I don't want to make any promises. Of course, I can't do that because I have no clue what Congress is actually going to do, right? We know, watching Congress for a while now, they work incredibly slow. They delay things. You know, they're notorious for delaying things and notorious for working very slow. So, you know, hopeful that it could come soon in 2022. I mean, seriously, it's on the table, right? So this is an awesome introduction. By the way, if you did not see my video from yesterday evening, I made a video yesterday evening where I gave you just a quick little introduction, and then I brought in an actual video clip of John Larson introducing this Social Security 2100, a sacred trust. It's about a 6-minute clip. I would say if you didn't see that video from yesterday, go back and watch it. It is the last video that I uploaded. I can actually link it down below at the top of the comment section as well with a link. I would say after you get done watching this one, go back and watch that. As you can see, John Larson himself introducing Social Security 2100, a sacred trust. He says a lot of really good things in there, and there's actually some pretty good points that he makes just in that little 6 minutes that I gave you. And also in the description of that video, I give you a link to the full video, which is over an hour long, of him introducing this bill and talking through all the different provisions. It's pretty good. So you might want to check that video out. Again, I will link it down below if you want to watch it. So hope this helps you out. But yeah, there's some really exciting stuff going on out there right now in regards to Social Security. I know that a lot of you out there in this community receive Social Security benefits, whether it's retirement or disability, SSDI or survivor's benefits. There's a lot of really good things out there. This is very encouraging. Seriously, it is not all that often that Congress actually talks about Social Security. So when a bill is actually introduced specifically focused on Social Security, it's pretty exciting, right? And when there's a buzz going on in Congress about Social Security, it's pretty exciting because it's not all that often that they actually bring this program up and actually want to reform it. So when they're talking about it, we're getting excited, right? So anyway, I hope this helps you out. Leave your comments or questions down below. If you have anything specific that I need to answer, of course, I'll do my best to answer those questions. Otherwise, I can always come back with a dedicated video and help you out in any way that I can. So if you haven't done so, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video. Share this with your friends, family, social media. Let's get the word out that they are talking about reforming Social Security. Let's get some momentum behind this and help them out in any way that we can. Encourage them, keep going on this, and ultimately reform these programs. So, cool stuff. All right, thank you again for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe down below, share the videos, go back and check out that other video from yesterday, and I'll catch you again later in the next video in just a few